Our next meeting is August the 18th, 2021 at 12 p.m. here at 999 Chambers Road. I'd like to make a motion to accept the agenda with flexibility.
I'll second.
Trustee Sword?
Yes.
Trustee Jesberger?
Yes.
Trustee Sierra?
Yes. I'd like to make a motion to approve the bills.
I'll second.
Trustee Sword?
Yes.
Trustee Jesberger?
Yes.
Trustee Sierra?
Yes. I'd like to make a motion to approve payroll.
I'll second.
Trustee Sword?
Yes.
Trustee Jesberger?
Yes.
Trustee Sierra?
Yes. I'd like to make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from the July 21st, 2021 meeting.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Are you ready for the roll call? Okay. Trustee Sword?
Yes.
Trustee Jesberger?
Abstain.
Trustee Sierra?
Yes.
Okay.
Item number 8 is our ongoing conversation around our eventual use of the American Rescue Plan funds. Last week, I attended a very informative webinar on the use of those funds. I know Mr. Huffman did as well, because he sent out some slides from the, wondering if anybody else had an opportunity to review those or attend the webinar?
I did.
That did? Okay. So there was I thought a lot of good stuff in there. Does anybody want to comment on what were some of your major takeaways?
Well, the main thing, there are obviously 4 specifics that we need to focus on. They talk about how it's for the community, and the whole revenue loss is kind of a convoluted mathematic equation. We did find that OTA has a spreadsheet that we can kind of put in numbers, and we'll kind of do a calculation for that. I did contact OTA about funding of like if it's fire revenue loss, and according to OTA, revenue loss is everything, not specific. So it would be revenue loss total for the township, and they're truthfully not 100% sure where that money would land after it comes back. So we're still needing to verify that.
Yeah. Yesterday we applied for the funds, the administrator and I. And so what I've been thinking through with Mr. Huffman is I'm not sure what the point of doing the revenue loss calculation is when there's already really good things for the community we could be spending the monies on. So the calculator is helpful, but I'm not sure what the point is. The best example is the gasoline tax. There's a specific line, it's its own fund, 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So we can use the fancy calculator and figure out what we might be able to calculate against ARP, but we're not sure if it goes back to the same fund that was shorted because of COVID. So it's sort of like, what's the point of doing the revenue loss calculator if it doesn't go back to the fund that was shorted? We're still just going to end up spending it on these community efforts anyway. So OTA doesn't quite know the answer to that yet.
Yeah, I think the point would be, it's a philosophical question of how we want to spend the money. Do we want to eventually try and replace lost revenue as a part of what we do with these funds, or do we want to just push it all to the community? And I'm on the latter end of that equation myself, but it doesn't mean the whole board is. So that would be the reason, is if folks decided it was important to use some of that money to replace our services revenues.
Yeah, we don't know the answer to if it would land therefore back in the gasoline fund.
Yeah, I understand
We've been
that.
told it lands back in the general, so
Yeah.
we don't need to go through that rigmarole. So we're finding out.
Well, the general probably lost some revenue too, you know, I mean.
Right, I was just chasing the ball on the gasoline tax.
Yeah.
I assumed it would go back to the fund that was shorted, and right now the answer seems to be no, it landed in your general. So then why even do the revenue loss calculation? Because either way, we have access to the same amount of money, but we're figuring out as we go.
The OTA, the Ohio Township Association, is hoping to get the auditor of state to do a virtual meeting as well.
Mm-hmm.
Questions like this could be asked at that point, hopefully, and try to get into it as well.
Clarification.
Yeah.
But phase 1 was to make sure we said we wanted the funds.
Yeah.
So we did that, which the deadline was September 4th.
Yeah. Great. But likewise, I took away the emphasis from the webinar on community, rescuing Americans, and not necessarily as much on services. We've got a lot of opportunities for a lot of different ways. So those of you who kind of paged through the document, I thought we could just kind of continue our conversation. Clearly, we're not going to be making hard and fast decisions anytime soon, but at least we could start maybe pinning down some areas of interest. So I've been looking at this next activity as very informal. I'm not trying to make anybody have a hardcore carved in stone vote on anything, but rather that we just sort of have a session where we can talk about some ideas that people are having at this particular point in time. And all of that may change, certainly, as we learn more and understand more about the law and attend more of these webinars. But I was just going to do a couple of things. I thought maybe we could just generate a list of some of the ideas that folks are interested in today. And then I gave everybody 3 little dots. So if you feel like it after we have a big list, I would love to know what your favorite 3 things are. You can just come up here and stick. We don't have to talk about it. It'll just be a very informal way to just collect some beginning data on where we're leaning with some areas of interest. Okay, and that's all the only thing I envision is operating as. Okay? So with that, could we talk about some ideas of ways to spend the money that appeal to you so far?
So, for me, replacing lost revenue for departments is a big one.
Sorry, the easel moment there. Others?
Maybe if there's any way for some utility relief for those impacted, like utility bills.
Anybody else? Just
I would add to that, maybe like rent or mortgage, for people who might be behind.
just gonna use an M. Others?
Transportation,
Say what that means?
bus passes maybe, or
Thanks. Who else has some ideas?
Maybe home repairs. We would have to probably be really specific with that.
Yeah, I'm not, remembering a place where that got mentioned offhand. You'd have to, everything has to be tied so carefully
So
to the
carefully.
pandemic. Like, what was the,
Well, we are kind of fortunate, fortunate, unfortunate, depending on how you want to look at it. Through that webinar, they talked about the HUD areas.
Yes.
We're in a kind of needy
And
zone.
both east side, west side are all within.
the census tracts you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So that helps us with
Right.
applying for funds as well. We
Yep.
don't necessarily need to, I guess, get as nitty gritty into
Yeah.
how that works, but
Yeah.
that, one thing they always talked about, or they emphasized, was infrastructure, and it was mainly water quality. Be it a rain garden, green roofs, bioswales, so I guess maybe some sustainable.
Yeah, but I don't see how that would tie into COVID, being COVID.
oh, it's totally in there because it's part of the clean water and that's a health issue, so they make that connection that way. I added businesses, we're talking, we've got a couple of these that are like household assistants. We could
Yeah.
also add things like people who are on unemployment, there could be actual, other kinds of relief that might actually go to individual residents as well. But we've got a couple household things, I just wanted to get businesses up there because we can also help our small businesses who may have taken a hit in one way or another. And this green infrastructure, I'm trying to get up here. That's the last idea I heard. Boy, I am really not even. Yeah, you may got that. What else?
The other fourth item that they discussed in here is broadband. really know exactly
Yeah.
how the township can
Yeah,
pursue that, but if we're going to try to get at least items that the money could be spent on, broadband's like the fourth.
thanks for mentioning that, it's a personal interest of mine, given the lack of, internet interest on the east side. I know we have wired possibility there, but I think it's more of a financial concern. And I'm gonna be attending a bringing broadband to your community kind of seminar in September. So I'm hoping that we might be able to do something creative about that. I know for a fact, if we wanted to, we could provide Wi-Fi. You know, so, you know, it's out there, it's part of the possibilities, one of those things that we'll learn more about, I hope. Anybody else have any beginning thoughts?
What about like community programs, that are youth-based or family-based? Specifically, I don't know, for the increase in crime or the violence that's happening.
Yeah, so violence prevention is one of the things that gets mentioned right out loud in the document. I don't recall another one offhand, do you? I have another one that I'm gonna put up here, that's called, premium pay, while you continue to think about that, 'cause- Premium pay, whereas the CARES Act was targeted at, local governments and first responders and helping our safety services and all of that, and we could use it for payroll, et cetera. ARP funding is a little different. It's not necessarily payroll unless you are constantly documenting the ongoing need and, you know, collecting the statistics but there is a premium pay option that we have in terms of just giving folks who were essential workers dealing with the public during this time and moving forward, some sort of pay bonus recognition piece. It's part of what we could do.
And that's a one-time thing?
What they were recommending in the webinar was that you kind of did a one-time thing as opposed to ongoing payroll, because the audits for this and the argument that you make and the statistics that you present is gonna be a record-keeping thing for us. It's gonna be, and that's one way to get over that. So if you do payroll, for one thing, it's only gonna last while this funding does. You have to decide how much. But then you've got an ongoing concern of, it has to be prorated, so are these statistics the same now as they were 2 months ago, as well as come and go? You'll be changing that proration. So it would just be more tricky to do it that way?
I know internally we talked about trying to address some of the touch points and try to remove those, like mainly our lock system.
I'm just gonna put physical plant, because we had a couple of ideas, where we might be able to, mitigate transmission in the buildings. There's another one connected to this premium pay, I just want you to know about it, is it doesn't have to just be internal. We could literally give people premium pay who were stressing low-income workers in our community who were essential workers. So people who drove the buses and kept our community going could also qualify for some assistance from us, just like our small businesses that got impacted could. So it doesn't all have to be internal, just tossing that out there.
Is there anything for community engagement, because we were isolated from our residents during the last year and a half or so? That we could have community engagement, projects?
I didn't see that, and I'm gonna hedge towards, because the pandemic's not yet under control, like it's dicey to fund anything,
Well, that's
to bring
because,
people together
the
physically.
picnic with police, we, you know, I I'm hesitant of not getting people together for that yet,
Yeah.
but something like that, I mean, this funding's for the next few years, we
Yeah.
have access
Yeah.
to it.
I haven't seen anything that's directed at community engagement unless it's things like a violence prevention program that we could start. The other one that might fit was digital literacy training. There was things under broadband that were to sort of mitigate the disparity caused by income and people's access to technology. So that could be a thing that we could offer our community in terms of maybe some engagement. But that was the only other thing I remember so far in there, Chief.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of when Jess mentioned the violence prevention and like youth. I was skimming, trying to find something that was community-based, like warrior picnic with police or an open house or something
Well,
like that.
one of the things I will say that made me think of you so much is the food desert idea is all over this law. And
Yeah.
people's access to food and security and stuff is a big part. In fact, premium pay is specifically mentions farmers, grocers, people like that. And also, I think that there are some places to play around with those kinds of ideas too.
And it doesn't fit for the art funding, but I really like the Pumpkins with Police event. It happened many years ago. We didn't have a lot of people clumped together all at once, so just to kind of put that out there, it'd be nice to do again.
Does anybody want to add anything else to the list at this point? I don't want to beat it to death, but I don't want to shut anybody down who wanted to see something else up there.
What about healthcare, like for, residents who have more medical bills, and if they're not working, then they can't pay them?
Mhm.
Same thing.
I'm going to put health dollars assist, does that work for you? Okay, so take a look at the list. Does anybody need a reminder of what something means or anything like that? Take a little list, and in your own mind right now, if you could only do three, what would they be? Think about that. Remember, we're not making this decision hard and fast today, we're just collecting some initial interest, so don't want to keep you up nights or anything. Take your three, and let me ask, would you guys over there at that table walk on by and stick 3 dots anywhere you want to put? We'll just do this 3 or 4 people at a time so we're not all gathered.
You're the first seat.
Thanks, Corey. It's exciting, some of the opportunities right now, isn't it?
So we did stuff with residents, would they have to go through an application process?
Yeah, because everything they do is documented, they're neat. And one of the cool things is we can also do some of the funding pay for that person. And then hire somebody to look at those applications, make recommendations, screen things for us to.
So giving money, so let's say that we give money to you, is it something that probably?
That's two.
I think that's a stimulus, so I'm sure.
My turn?
Okay, how about, those of us up here, and as soon as that is, then anybody else, please join in with a vote as soon as there's some room to do so. Glenda, feel free, you're part of the team, do you have dots? I don't. Nick, can we have another set of dots for Glenda?
She can make stars.
Residents, Nick has the extras.
There's some extras, I can't find mine.
Thank you. I haven't really looked much into it though.
Like I want everybody to have great stuff.
Hacking is the first thing that comes to mind for me. Did you see the release business?
Thanks, Carol.
Look it up. Thank you. They got hacked and they were, oh, they were over it. There's two of them down there. Yeah.
Like I've had to take the internet away.
Buying stuff.
No. A little bit of that. Yeah, it was weird, that's my first read.
I remember he said he bought himself a laptop.
Yeah, he got really obsessed with it. I was like, what? And we're like, oh. So, give him that study. It sucks having a hard thing. I did drive up the road, but it was speeding. He bought the same hat from LLB before. Like I'm on a first name basis with the LLB staff. They didn't want the whole laundry bin full of returns.
Like, yeah, these are all
Super sad. They're like, I realize how digital shopping is.
Okay, thanks everyone. We'll just take that with us at the end of the day and have it for our future reference. It looks like there's a conglomeration of interest right now in violence prevention, a little bit in businesses and transportation, and lost revenue to departments is another kind of big one. And then several just have like 2s and 3s, health assistance, physical plant, utility relief, broadband. So a smattering of stuff to think about. I appreciate your willingness to just get a start on that. Anybody want to add anything else at this point about the topic? Okay, thank you again. Number 9.
Hi, that's me. I know that this is not fun to talk about, and I know there are lots of different opinions. I know that Chief Jones will briefly go over, the monthly report, but I was able to pull up, some of the last reports. I can't find there, April, to see the calls for service. And so you'll hear that for July, there were 570 calls. In June, there were 310. And then it goes to February, there's 261. I don't know what month this is. Oh, calls for December of 2020 is 364. So over the last like 6 or 7 months, we have had an incredibly big increase in calls for service, which is concerning. I strongly feel that our officers are, I don't want to say overworked because they all step up when they need to, but they're working really long hours. They're coming in incredibly early, or they're staying even later, picking up other shifts to make sure that our township has our police service. I mean, we are understaffed. I know we just lost one of our part-time officers who, good for him, went to bigger and better things with Worthington. So it's incredibly concerning, and so with that being said, I strongly feel that this transfer, at least for police, needs to happen this year. I know that I was trying to gather all my information and stuff that I said before, but, you know, like with the JETSI and the CEDA, like, our police could potentially be negative by 2024 without this transfer, which is incredibly scary. I have not yet run into a resident who has had anything negative to say about our actual police force, but there are lots of residents who have shared concerns about traffic flow. But when you have that number of calls, and we have some serious things that have happened, and so when I moved in April of 19, I remember having conversations with Chief Jones as just a resident to talk about some juvenile probation stuff. And he was so proud to say, you know, over the last like 10, 12 years, like, we've been able to kind of get the crime to just kind of go away from our township. Unfortunately, probably due to COVID, there's been obviously an influx. And these numbers are just, to me, they're not normal to see. So shootings, we had 2 on the east side, 3 narcotics or overdoses. Domestic violence has gone up, there was 7. Even on the west side, there was 1 narcotic or OD. And that's what that money was meant for, like the previous, or whatever the board was, I forgot their names. They worked really hard to get this, and when they were able to secure it for our township, it's supposed to help our township. And I feel like right now, knowing that there's potential that we could be in the negative by 2024, or even having to use the L word levy, I don't think that that's right. I'm still educating myself on a lot of this, so obviously please correct me if I'm wrong, because I want to learn. But it just concerns me, and I wanted to voice my opinion and my concerns about this transfer happening this year.
So, I hear your concerns and I share many of them. We voted on that, what was it, July, passed the budget. We will be giving them a transfer in 2022. And going forward, we will keep evaluating that, or the board, next board will keep evaluating that. They are not in the red before then, and it's my understanding that we have a couple of part-time officers possibly in the works coming up, which should help. That's my take on what I voted for in the last meeting, is that we're okay for now, and it's not my intention to let any of our departments fail. I've made that quite clear for a very long time. But everybody is being impacted with the increase in violence and crime throughout the entire city, the state, the nation. I don't think it has anything to do with funding. It's the atmosphere, unfortunately. Just know that you're heard. I hear you.
Because I view it as, like, I feel like that would be, like, playing it out, which I understand, and like constantly kind of reviewing.
Mhm.
But I feel like it would be very similar to telling our officers, or if an officer wasn't prepared to go out with their entire uniform. Like, that's a huge chance, and that's a huge risk that they're taking. And that's why I feel like trying to be proactive and looking at the numbers, it is uncomfortable to know that in a couple years, you know, there could be a big issue, or there will be a big issue. I mean, we have a strong police force. And as I've said before, like, it is an absolute honor and privilege in our township to be able to have our own fire and police and public works. And I just want to make sure that we are fully prepared. I remember in a meeting, I can't remember when it was, when we were talking about the updates on the police negotiations. I remember because I got a little emotional, and I said, you know, it's coming back to this township, and I said, you know, with what I do for a full-time job, like, I'm in it, and I said, like, it's gonna continue to get worse, and unfortunately, what I said is absolutely correct, and that's what's happening. And of course, the last thing that I would want if there was any sort of like unpreparedness is that we are putting our officers in an even more riskier situation than what they already are with what they do for a living.
I think, what I'll say is that it just may be that because you're immersed in this, professionally, that you have a pretty emotional response going on. I am not gonna ask Chief to get in the middle of this, but I seriously doubt that anyone is feeling like we're sending anybody out unprepared or at risk. And I really take exception to that. That is not the case, and we will never let it be the case. Similarly, I guess the other things that I would add is, I know that you wanna continue to talk about this, but at some point, it's time to respect the decision that the board made and to move on. We voted, and you voted for the budget in July of 2020 that said in 2021 there wasn't a transfer that particular year. You voted for that. We had to have that conversation again this July, and I don't understand why. We were looking back a year, when we passed the budget where we did make a transfer to both police and fire. I don't like to hear these numbers about being in the red when it's simply not true that as soon as that deposit gets made, those numbers are out the door. Those numbers are based on what happens if there's never another transfer. That's not reality. So with that, I'm just gonna say that, you know, we've talked about it. I'm committed to January 1st, or as soon as fiscal officer can make it happen, there's a transfer going to PD, and it's gonna be fine. If something happens before then, and there's an obvious issue, I'm sure that will be fine, and then we'll find support here. But I'm just personally, I'm done sort of revisiting the same issue over and over again.
I just have one thing to say. That's not true. Those numbers are not based on no transfers. Those numbers are based on transfers every other year, and not every year.
Bobby, we have a police budget in excess of, Mike, $1.8 million, something like that? Is that about right? So in the neighborhood of 1.8, that's almost all the entire amount of CDOT, okay? There's no way that CDOT is just gonna be able to always solve police's problems. We're gonna do everything we need to do all along the way, obviously. If there's not enough money to just fund the police budget out of CDOT. That's the numbers. And I'm not gonna go around in circle with this a lot. It's not. So, how about committee reports, please?
I have a question, Jane. I understand that we've lost a number of full-time police officers this year, and now the part-timers are leaving to go to Worthington. Anybody know why that is? What's the reason behind them leaving? Just curious.
Well, we've had several retirements. And our last part-time person, Matt Lease, went to a full-time position at the city of Worthington.
Okay. How many police officers do we have now, Chief?
We have 2 part-time and 10 full-time.
10 full-time. Okay, thank you.
team reports. The Community Health Action Team, or CHAT, had our bi-weekly produce market on July 23rd. We served 74 families. We received 3,400 pounds of food. We actually ran out of produce before 5 p.m., right? Before 5. Yeah. So it was a very short, very quick produce market. Our next produce market is this Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. We hope it won't be so short. We don't know what we're getting until we get it. So we are always looking for volunteers. If you know anybody that needs or would like to come through to get free produce, it is a drive-through market. We ask that everybody is masked when they come through. All of our volunteers will be masked and screened for COVID symptoms, so we're all safe. You would enter off of Elmore and Cleveland Avenue by following the hot pink signs down Brandon through the back of the complex. We do move everybody through very quickly. There's usually quite a few people out there registering people through Pantry Tracker. So we are excited to get that rolling through this Friday. Once again, 4 to 6 p.m. Drive-through. If you're a busser, a walker, or a bike rider, you may walk up to the front of the fire bay. Somebody will approach you and get you signed in and served at the front of the fire bay. And Chief Rayleigh's got something to say.
It's actually August 13th.
August 13th. I'm sorry, not this Friday. August 13th.
And again, just to reiterate, it was a short market, and we are kind of at the mercy of what we get from Mid-Ohio.
Yes.
I did receive a couple of emails after that market about we should advertise from 4 to 4:30, because we do advertise from 4 to 6. However, I was gonna talk to Franklin County Public Health about the flyer and say 4 until we're out of food.
Okay.
Just because we have had a couple of shorter markets in the last couple.
Yeah.
That one was extremely short, but the one before was maybe a half hour or 15 minutes before 6, we were out of food. So if you're interested, please show up early, and that'll make sure that you get something in your car.
And will you also have one then on the 27th of August?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I'd just like to get those future dates out, but also thanks to Glenda for keeping the calendars updated. But by the time we meet again on the 18th, then I'll post this online. So it's nice when I post it, but there's still an upcoming one.
Also, something that we might want to look into if we have another short produce market like that is updating, like commenting on the event where people can check to see. We could just mark out of produce so that everybody that's RSVP can see that. For anybody wondering what the event is, there is an event posted on the Clinton Township Division of Fire Facebook page. It is a recurring event, so every time we get a new set of dates, a new recurring event is created with multiple dates. If you RSVP to those by clicking interested or going, if Facebook will actually give you a notification that you have an upcoming event the morning of the produce market, so you don't miss anything. And if you've RSVP'd as going, whenever the event holder posts something under that date link, it will automatically give you a notification to let you know, hey, they're out of produce. So if you're en route, stop somewhere to get gas and you see, hey, they're out of produce halfway there, you don't waste an entire trip. But getting there early is the key. That's it.
Thank you.
I actually had an announcement, not a major thing, but as I discussed at the previous meeting, the fiscal forum that we're gonna host September 1st at 7 p.m. at the main township building. Stinziano's office, our Franklin County auditor, reached out. They like to do community forums or community hours. So they would like to partner for this event on September 1st. I don't think that Mr. Stinziano himself will be there, but he might be. He sometimes is. So somebody from their office will be there just to help pass out lit, similar to what I said before with the education piece. So my goal for that event is still just to be a survey similar to this one on the board, but it's nice at the auditor's office, that this coincides with their efforts as well. I know we need to get promotions going, so I'll work in the next week to kind of vet out the legal notices, that this is non-binding, so we can start promotion.
Anything else for this section? Mr. Hoffman?
The first item is the request a motion to change the status of all empty parcels owned by the township to not for sale.
So moved.
I'll second.
Trustee Sword?
Yes.
Trustee Jesberger?
Yes.
Trustee Zero?
Yes.
Second is request a motion to appoint Greg Lehman from Watershed Distillery to the Joint Economic Development Zoning Board.
So moved.
I'll second.
Trustee Sword?
Yes.
Trustee Jesberger?
Yes.
Trustee Zero?
Yes.
And using flexibility, I would like to just have a discussion about the second meeting for 942 Chamber Circle. End of business today is the 20-day deadline. As of yet, we have not received anything. But given the fact with special meetings, you need 24-hour notice. Friday would probably be the soonest we could meet. So since I had all three board members available, maybe we could go ahead and schedule that next special meeting. I've talked with Julie Donan from the attorney's office. She will have a resolution ready for us whenever we decide to meet. So that would be the second step, which would, my understanding, would allow us to go out and meet with organizations to take the next step on 942 Chamber Circle and potentially have the structure removed.
I'm available Friday.
I am available Friday. I would prefer afternoon, but I know you work a day job as well, so I'm willing to juggle. I can do a lunch hour. I know it'll be a short meeting.
Afternoon, please. Would be
Afternoon.
better, but it would have to be after like 3:30.
Would that work okay with you, Jane?
Like at 4 p.m.?
Something else was on my calendar, but it's morning. Okay.
Okay.
Like
So, you gonna do 4?
Or something.
So Friday at 4 o'clock?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll make sure we get the special notice posted out front of the board and everything, and then, I'll get with the attorney to have the resolution ready for us so that we can take the next step to address the issue across the street.
Sounds good.
So here's more than 24-hour notice that we're on a special meeting Friday.
It's a very likely.
Thank you. Anything else?
Just my monthly report, it has been submitted, just a couple highlights. I don't know, the first one is a highlight, but unfortunately, Code Compliance Officer O'Connor did depart from the township. He did give us plenty of notice, was able to stay a long time. He did actually kind of participate through the interview process at the beginning, so I do appreciate him in regards to that. Through that process, going into this month, because, well, we did hire him, I guess, last month, but we do have Nick Herring, who is Jonathan's replacement, so local resident, if you'd like to meet him afterwards. Now's your chance. We did have a JEDC board meeting, and through that, we were searching for new board members to participate. Working with Fire Inspector Feldman, he gave me a couple of contacts. Reached out to Watershed. Gene and I had a conversation with Greg. He seems really excited about participating, so it'd be nice to have a new face and ideas on that board. We're still kind of working through the flooring issue. Looks like starting in August this month, we'll start seeing some new floors going down. So we will need to meet with the Epoxy, there we go, thank you. Fleck guys sometime this week to start up, ideally with all the department heads to try to set up a schedule as to how we can do the building with the least amount of interruptions. I did have a call from the tile shop, we need to go in and pick out the color of ground. And then with the American Rescue Plan, the webinars and research and things on that line has been some of my time as well.
Just
quick question, who are our JEDC board members?
Currently, Doug Vance, the
Okay,
Vances, and Erica Green, who is a business owner on the east side,
Big spot.
where is
west
she?
side.
She never goes to any of them.
Yeah, so this Greg will replace her.
Oh, okay.
And me.
And the fiscal officer is also on the board.
And
So,
Deb,
yeah,
okay, so it's Doug Vance and
It's Greg
Greg
Lehman.
and Deb. Okay, I was just curious, I didn't know who was on there
And
anymore.
I apologize, Greg will be replacing Erica.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Chief Fraley, looks like we're through you.
I had emailed the board the monthly report yesterday. Just a couple of quick highlights. 3 firefighters became certified in critical incident stress management. The class was held on the 14th and 15th. Thanks to Chief Jones for getting that class set up. But it gives them the ability to debrief individuals that have been involved with a traumatic incident
Good job.
and evaluate for further need of services. And the other thing we started back up was run review with our medical director. We haven't been able to do that during COVID. We did start that back up again last month, and he's gonna come in every 3 or 4 months to review our incidents and critique the critical incidents that we respond to. And just a little flexibility, I'm sure Chief Jones talked about it too. August 28th, we had a brief discussion before the meeting. There is a planned complex coordinated terrorist attack training that will be taking place throughout Franklin County. There's several scenarios that will be in place. They're gonna advertise it heavily on the news and also on billboards. We will be taking part on the east side at scenarios at Easton. But just so you guys are aware and see the information about that coming forward.
Thanks, Chief. Chief Jones.
Yeah, just on that topic, so some residents, you may see other jurisdictions, law enforcement, federal agencies are gonna be involved with this, such as FBI, marshals, all the 3-letter agencies. So that Saturday morning through afternoon, you may see a large variety of vehicles traversing the county. So you may see cars from Whitehall, Westerville, Dublin, they're all participating in this exercise, so. But a heavy media campaign is supposed to be starting up here in the next week or so. And had that conversation at EMA this morning, so residents don't start calling 911 wanting to know if a plane crashed or something. It's all gonna be put out on the media, so hopefully everybody kind of understands what's going on. So it hasn't been done in quite a while, and this is tabletop exercise went well with different command staffs from different agencies. And this is gonna be kind of a big thing put together, and a federal grant was used to facilitate all that. So all the participants are gonna have lunch, food. You guys not know that yet? So they will be serving food and snacks to all the participating agencies to feed those folks. The other thing, I had a monthly report, gave to the trustees. Again, we just saw an uptick in some violent crime in the township. During the Franklin County Chiefs meeting today, there's some things that are kind of behind the scenes I can't talk about yet, but I think with the new police chief in Columbus, the goal is mutual aid, mutual working together in all of our communities here in Franklin County. So I'm kind of glad to hear that. So before it was, this is my pond and you have your area. I think now the police executives in Franklin County are all coming together to work together to solve these issues. So we're gonna see some changes coming.
Great.
Is there any update on the gun locks? Like, have they come in yet?
Well, speaking about updates on things, they're probably with our controllers for the Tesla cars for but no, September the 9th, we do have a build date for our cars finally, the equipment's coming in, finally. So the Tesla's on that, the gun locks, I don't have an update on those.
Is there someone that can call to ask?
Someone that you could call?
Yeah.
No different than the people I talked to, I'm not being funny, but it's a kind of a reporting thing. They have an online system. You submit your request. It's kind of, we can go outside and possibly find somewhere to buy them from, but they're rather expensive now. But What we've kind of been telling people too, Columbus fire stations throughout Franklin County have available free gun locks that the city purchased, so we're kind of telling folks that route right now. Just people that want them, that's kind of where we're sending them right now, but we do hope to get some in. That's all I have.
Thanks, Chief. Superintendent Flake?
Good afternoon. First, I would like to request a resolution authorizing the resident at 2114 Eddystone Avenue to tie into the township stormwater system for the purpose of an aerator system.
So moved.
I'll second.
Trustee Sword,
Yes.
trustee Jesperger,
Yes.
trustee Seer.
Yes.
Secondly, last week I sent in my monthly report. Other than business as usual, the brush and mowing, we were able to get 8 solar lights installed on the east side of the township. That's all I have.
Excellent. Love solar lights, thank you.
Just out of curiosity, does that mean you're gonna place any more solar lights, or are you gonna keep the rest for spare parts? I'm just curious as a resident.
I think we put in an order not too long ago for spare poles, correct?
Just polls, yeah. How many are left at this point?
I'm sorry.
Sorry, Tori. How many lights are left at this point?
11.
11. And we're thinking we're gonna hold back about how many? Did we think, I think the last time I asked you, were we gonna think about maybe holding 5 back in case of damage?
Yeah.
So there might be a handful yet to install this summer.
Yeah, just tentatively,
The
maybe 6.
supplier for the tops of the lights is a lot more responsive than the supplier for the poles. So I think if we need to get more of the tops for the lights, I think we could do that a lot quicker.
Okay, so at the moment, maybe 6 more will be placed eventually.
Yeah.
I like the 2 on my street.
Good?
Good.
All right, thank you. Appreciations, anyone? Other items? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Yes.
You got it?
So weird.
Thanks, everyone.